confused yet, just keep watching.
That's rhythm.
Oh, and while you're confused, consider supporting us on Patreon.com, where you can enjoy early, ad-free access, bonus episodes, and lots of cool benefits. Hey, come back here with my horse.
Oh, yeah. We haven't got a title song for this show, so we're singing this thing instead.
Okay.
It's really just a substitute. Nonetheless, the melody may stay in your head.
Oh, I hope so.
'Cause it's a tune.
It's a tune.
You'll love to croon.
You'll love to croon.
Ah, but there's one thing you should know. We have to confess we do not possess a title song for this show.
Ain't it peculiar?
Believe it or not, we haven't got a title song for this show.
Oops. Welcome to another episode of the Tell You Later Show. Yay! Thank you to all our patrons who support us on Patreon.com. People even who are listening on Anchor. Although you're missing the big picture, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you for people who want to support the show just by buying merch, which we have some stuff. Let me show you. You will be impressed. We have t-shirts that say Tell You Later. And they're on the website, which is, guess what our website is? I know I haven't introduced you yet, but it's coming.
TellYouLater.com.
Merchulator.
Merchulator. Oh, okay.
So we have a few different, we have this in two different
That's
colors, and we have bags, and this other with our original logo. Okay, so anyway, thank you. So I have a different kind of show today with a special guest who is you.
Oh, wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Mr. Tim Friedlander.
Hello.
That's spelled with a lot of letters, like Friedlander.
Exactly.
But it's not Friedlander, it is Friedlander.
Exactly.
Okay, because we live in a free land. True. Truth belt. Okay. Pretty much. Until so far so good, right?
We're off to a great start.
Yes, I think
got the name right, so that's a so far a step ahead.
Yeah, so you're probably saying to yourselves, and you're probably saying to yourself, what am I doing at the Tell You Later studios today?
That's a good
Why
question.
does Katie... Oh, I forgot to show our mug.
Oh, the mug too. There we go. Nice.
Okay.
That matches the logo from the hat over here.
It does.
That
Yes,
hat right
it
there.
does. Yes, and we thank Rose Beasley for that design. Because most of the people I have on the show are voiceover friends of mine from the past, and we reminisce and we share. But to me, you represent a whole new wave of voiceover in America. And a lot of people ask me, hey, I go on a lot of podcasts myself, what's the difference between when you started and now? And I give them the answer to the best of my ability. But not just, to me, I really admire you. I don't know you that well, which is why I have notes. I have notes for this one. I've never had notes before. I don't know you that well, but what I've seen you do just gives me the biggest thrill, because you're not just a talented person, you are a generous, nice guy that everybody likes. Not unlike my friend Will Ryan, who I started the show with, who everybody liked too. And the thing that characterized Will is that whatever he was doing, he always wanted to bring in people to be a part of it. He had a cowboy band, Will Ryan and the Cactus County Cowboys, and he'd bring in people to be part of the show. He'd produce record albums and just find things for people to do. So I think you're kind of like that.
All right.
And you've created a community. So thank you for coming down here.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start out. I did watch, there's an interview with Tim. It's got really, really bad sound, but good content. It was a VOBS podcast from 4 years ago.
About that, yeah. It was from a studio. It was a live remote experiment.
And it was right after you had built the soundBOX LA.
Yeah, after we'd opened, kind of done a remodel and had reopened to the public.
Okay, so let me just add some more to your credentials because I didn't ask you for a bio or anything. You're a musician. You're a voice actor. You help with workouts. You created workouts for people.
Yep.
You're also an engineer now.
Yep, now kind of became one.
And so I'm going to ask you about all that. And I have a feeling you're a producer too.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You do all that stuff. So the interview I watched was from 4 years ago.
Yep.
And in that interview, you said that you had been in LA for 4 years.
Would have been...
No, voiceover for 4 years. So now it's been like 8 years since then. So 4 years since that interview.
Yep.
And so I know that you've added some new things to your resume.
Done a lot, yeah.
So I wanted to catch up and share because there's some really exciting things you've done for voiceover people. And I also think that you're just a really good role model. So that's why you're here. So
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, when you were in that interview, you had said to Dan Leonard, when you kind of wiped your slate clean, first of all, let me ask you this. You said you did 1,000 auditions in 1 year, 2014?
2014 or 2015 I did.
Didn't book anything?
1,000 auditions on pay-to-play sites.
Did you stop at 1,000? Were you keeping track?
No,
and it's 1000, that's it.
I looked back and I added them up and I'd done a little of them around 1,000, a little over 1,000, 1,100 or so, and didn't book a single job.
I've probably done the same thing, actually.
Yep.
But if you look at it as time spent in the booth, you're getting your 10,000 hours in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could think of it that way. Yeah. But then you said, and I talk a lot about about networking, and you're all about that. Like I said, you're a community guy. You went to a voiceover conference, and that inspired you.
Yeah, it was Voice 2014 in August, September of 2014.
Because you found, hey, I'm not alone, is what you said?
Yeah, I found that people I found people who were failing the way I was, and that I wasn't the only one failing, and then kind of reframed that into...
Everyone who's failing over here in this corner.
Exactly.
But it's...
and realized that it wasn't just... I just didn't know. I just wasn't doing it correctly, and I didn't know how, and I was trying to do it by myself and didn't have a community.
Okay, so what do you mean by not doing it correctly?
Kind of not working with voiceover as an art like anything else that we do. If you're a musician or anything else, you need to train and get better and constantly evolve. And
you mean it's not just getting a microphone?
It's not just getting a microphone.
And plugging it into your computer and telling your kids to be quiet?
It's part of it. if that's all you want to do is plug in your microphone and tell people to be quiet. But I wasn't... Basically, I came to LA... And I was training in 96. First started voiceover in 96, training in 96. Came to LA in 2002, and I was like, oh, well, I have a demo, and I've done my training. I'm done. I'm ready to go. And
did the person who made your demo make that promise to you, or you just assumed?
No, that was just what I assumed that's just what that once you have the demo, you train, you get the demo, you get an agent, you book jobs.
Right.
And so... I did all that, and I just wasn't booking jobs.
Did you get an agent with that demo?
I did. Okay. I got an agent second year that I was in LA, second year that I was in LA, and I'm an agent that I still work with 20 years later, and I basically just I basically just stayed static, and I didn't train, I didn't follow trends, I didn't learn how to get better. I just assumed this is how I sound because this is where I was trained to do, and now I'm just going to do this forever.
Okay, so I have two questions with that.
Yeah. I
hope I remember them. One is, did your agent ever give you feedback?
They did only once, and it was when I submitted my demo, went in for a read, and their feedback was... I'm not going to swear on TV, but he said, wow, that was not at all how you sounded. Basically, who the heck are you? That's not the person who submitted the demo. You don't sound at all like your demo.
Wow.
And then still took me on.
But they still took you on.
Yeah, because there was something they heard in there, I guess.
Was your demo really processed?
No, it wasn't processed. I just couldn't recreate my demo. I wasn't...
That's a really good point. Truth, Bill, because that's what I tell people. You can make a great demo, but if you walk into the booth and someone hires you and you can't do that immediately.
Exactly.
For instance, well, like when I go to work, I mean, and I've been doing this a long time, you know, I think, you know, some people, I see them listening to their references over and over, and I think, just play me the reference. I know what I did. I'll find it. I'll get it right. But you get so familiar with, you know, what you do. Not that you shouldn't study if it's something unusual.
But absolutely, I think, and then part of that is that you are able to be familiar with that reference because you created that reference. It wasn't that somebody created. So in my instance, basically, you know, I trained and got a demo producer to get me to do something that I couldn't do without them.
Yes.
And so then you go into a session or a booking or an audition for an agent, and you can't recreate something because I didn't actually create it in the first place.
I'm taking some more notes.
Take the notes.
All right, because demo, it's interesting because things are different, you know. I mean, that's how I kind of made my first demo, except it worked.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You know, and that was like after like no training. I actually went in a booth. This is a crazy story. I went in a booth. She made it. She got us. We helped put a script together somehow.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Lucille Bliss made this demo, but I happened to be at the right place at the right time where they needed people who sounded like kids. They're like, well, just whatever, just
right
get
place,
here,
right time, right opportunity. You prepared, you know, in whatever way you were prepared, and it came through.
So my second question is, I knew I should have asked the second one first. You said,
what's the fangirl up to this week? To find out, stay tuned till after the credits.
They said you didn't sound like you weren't like. Oh, I knew I would forget this.
Didn't sound like me. I was like, who are you? You don't sound like the person on the demo.
Right, but you said you learned something about what either. Well, I'm going to have to rewind
That's a good question.
this.
I don't know what I said.
I know. We can't rewind it and hear it. From now on, I'm writing down things as I think about it. Well, maybe it'll come back to me.
Yep.
Okay, so you kind of changed everything. You started to get training. That encouraged you from the event?
From the event, yeah. Yeah, and up until that point, I would just basically trying to audition anywhere that I could. Craigslist. A lot, you know, back in the early 2000s, Craigslist was a great opportunity. I booked a lot of stuff off Craigslist for voiceover. There were a lot of small, you know, a lot of kids coming out of college who were working on their thesis. A lot of kids, people who were doing student projects who needed voiceover, and so I booked a lot of work that way. And one person I met there, I still do work for him. Still,
that's great.
15 years later, I still, you know, he calls me every once in a while. I'll do, you know, a corporate project for him or something like that for a project that he's working on.
So you did start creating these workout groups, and I think you give a lot of credit to having those groups. To me, I mean, I met you through your group showing up. I'm like, what is this? There's a thing, okay? Because I want to know what people are doing. When you do your work, okay. So what do they call? Let's do a plug.
So we have Gardner Street Workout Group is the one that I started in 2014, and that was basically
because you live on Gardner Street.
I live on Gardner Street, exactly. It was Gardner Street. It was Gardner Street Studio, which we changed because there's a studio similar to that nearby. And basically, I had a studio. I had a place to work out of, and I was just there by myself. I'm like, why don't I just invite some people over, and we can all just kind of figure out how to navigate this industry together. And that's kind of what we started doing, and that was in 2014. I had met like Jason Lanier White, Susan Maisel, Dren Lichtenstein, a couple of people.
Those are the people I met when I started coming to your place.
Yeah, and they were all early, so that was all kind of the early foundation of the Gardner Street workout group. And then from there, the following year, I met Jay Preston at another workout group.
Fell in love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we were just in line, but we had similar hats on, and we bonded over hats. So we discussed hats.
Jay's actually married, but they have bro love.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he and I have been working together ever since. And he had founded the Voiceover Collective And so we kind of partnered on...
So how is Voiceover Collective different from your Gardner Street workout?
Voiceover Collective is a public group that is for like networking and meetups, and it's an online, it's a website.
That's when he has the parties.
So all the parties, the Wine About VO and some of the other events, it's a resource page now. It's entirely as a website, voiceovercollective.com or thevoiceovercollective.com. And that's kind of a resource page. It's got access to, the coaches and studios and things along those lines. And then the workout groups are private, and they're small. It's a Facebook group. Everybody's welcome, but it's all handled through a Facebook group.
And you pay to show up because it's your time.
Yep.
The VO Collective, I'm going to jump around.
Yeah. Yep.
I understand you bought the VO Resource Guide.
Jay Preston and I are now the co-editors of the VoiceOver Resource Guide.
So when I came to Hollywood 40 years ago, there was the VoiceOver Resource Guide. It was a pamphlet. They had it at the Voicecaster sitting in the lobby, and it listed all the studios in the area and all the ad agencies.
Ad agencies,
Because we used to go to ad agencies.
Right. Yep.
I don't know. Tell us what it's like, what it's going to be now.
So
and they have an online version.
The online version's been around for a while. The online version has been essentially just an online version of the book.
Yeah.
The book, and the book's now 52 pages is what it's been. The last edition, it was last published in January of 2020. So it's been a couple of years, over 2 years now, since there was a publication.
You mean an online?
Well, the online the website's always been up, so that's been there, but it hasn't been updated, especially with a lot of changes during COVID, with agencies shutting down, with people leaving the industry, with people passing on. Unfortunately, that things have changed. The website.
It's something you have to update every year.
And it has to be. The website needs to be. The website's a living, breathing resource, and so that needs to be constantly updated. It has to be changing if an agent moves, or you have agents that are moving back and forth between different agencies. That needs to be updated as well.
Oh, yeah.
The print version will be back.
Are you going to make a print version?
We're doing a print version. Our plan is to launch, have our first one out in July.
Oh, okay, so we don't have it yet.
We don't have it yet,
I was going to, I asked you to bring some copies because why? Oh, because I'm going to be doing a voiceover. They don't want to call it a summer camp, a program for 1 week at Pepperdine for kids. I was at the U.S. Performing Arts Organization asked me to do that, and I thought, well, that would be a nice thing to hand out to them.
Yeah.
And that is in July.
It's in July. We're trying right now. We're in the process of getting all of our print information in order of those who want to.
As if you didn't have enough to do.
Exactly. I don't have enough to do.
How are you finding time to do that?
Plenty of time. I don't know. I have plenty of time.
You have a master's degree in education. You're like, but that's not a doctor. That's like professor.
I'd be professor if I was going to teach.
Professor.
Teach in college. Yeah.
And have you?
No, I taught at elementary school for 12 years. So that's what I did for a long time. And then when I went into, that's what I was doing when I got back into voiceover, and got my master's in 2016, went full-time in voiceover in 2016, and quit teaching in 2016.
It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense. No, I graduated in music education and went right into voiceover.
But finish what you start. It's very satisfying. Would you say that?
It was great. That was amazing. I turned in my thesis and I was done, and I went to Boston, did it through Boston, was at Boston University, and went to Boston for graduation and everything.
But you never know, because I bet, have you, I know you're a promo announcer, you're a documentary narrator. So have you found like the intersection of voiceover and music yet?
Not music so much, but definitely voiceover and education, voiceover and teaching. In that, especially if you're doing documentary, any of this stuff is really educational material. If you're doing a documentary or narration or TV show or something along those lines, training videos, whatever.
Give us a training video documentary tip. When you're narrating,
when I'm narrating, at least for myself, I'm able to draw back on that experience of what it's like to be in front of a classroom, and so I can put myself. I can't, some people say, "Oh, well, pretend you're in front of a group of people." I can pretend that I'm in front. I can bring back what it's like to be in front of. I can picture where my whiteboard would be. I can picture where my materials would be.
Do you do a lot of physicalization when
I tend to. Yeah, I tend to. for me, it helps put the environment in place.
Yeah,
for me,
well, I
so
would
can
think
do that,
it just like I do a lot of animation acting, and you've been doing that too, from what I hear. But you have to know where you are, like feel you're in that space, and that helps. I always say that our ears are lie detectors.
Right. Yeah.
So if you have a real good sense of where you are and you communicate that, the listener will hear that and feel that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And if if you're engaged in that and aware of being in that space, then you can bring other people into that space with you, and they may not necessarily have been in that space, but you can create that environment for the listener.
Do you think you'll ever narrate stuff about music and music production, music theory?
I don't know. I mean, possibly. I mean, it seems like an obvious connection to do, but I haven't done it yet. So.
You're younger than me, but not that much younger.
No,
you're a little bit younger, but you're young, you're significantly. But when I grew up in LA, there was a guy, and I don't know if you listened to him or not, Carl Haas from our classical radio station.
Okay.
And he had a whole series of programs about, music, and it was really interesting. Nice. So I could see you doing something like that too. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. I'm not opposed, especially like theory. Theory stuff's great. That's always fun to talk about theory.
I think I mentioned this once before on the show, but I had a friend in college who took piano. She had a piano class, and I said, when Marty, she was all nervous because her final was coming. What are you so nervous about? She says, well, I need to get into the lab. Because she did the course without going to class or touching a piano. So she says, I know how to do it in theory.
Right, in theory, yeah.
But I haven't actually done it on a piano.
Theoretically, I can play piano.
Yeah,
How do you get that far into a course without having touched a piano?
I don't know. It was San Francisco. Wow. Who knows? I don't know. Okay. So the difference is the VO Collective is more of a social thing, and the Gardner Street Workout is where you go. Now, when I went, people brought different copy, but now you've expanded. It's not just a free-for-all. You have a system, don't you?
A little bit. It depends on the guest or the workout or the system that we're doing, because we've also expanded into an online version of this, which is the VO Weekly Workout, which is an extension of what we were doing. And we had started that.
How does that work?
So that is, if you remember Voice Bank and the Voice Bank workout. So I
remember Stuart from Voice Bank.
Okay. I don't know Stuart from Voice Bank. I'm post Voice Bank.
Okay.
And I'd done a little bit of a couple of their workouts early on, but it's, it's a guest director. You submit a read and you get written feedback or recorded feedback from a guest director. And we do that every other week. So people, they get a chance. They sign up. They pay a small fee. It's not very big. They send in you give them a copy. They read it. And then the guest director gets like a week or so. Yeah, guest director gets a week. They get to listen to that, give feedback on that. And so that's not live. We've added a live component this year. Of course. So if they but that's not all, folks. That's not all. There's a Zoom component. So if you want to, we have 10 slots that are open out of each of the workouts. That if you want to pay extra, you can get a live Zoom session with the guest director. It's open to everybody in the group, so you can sit and audit and watch it, and then those 10 who paid get actual live in the moment feedback. What success stories have you gotten from your workout? Oh, you've got your new Tell You Later tote bag. Cute? I love it. Did you get that at Merchulator? I sure did. Merchulator.com. It's so cute. Look, super cute. Tell Ya Later bag, and it's got everything in it. Do they have hats? That's hard to tell. I don't know. I mean, I think people coming back is a success story. If people come back and keep returning, or if people return enough and leave, they move on and graduate. I want people to leave. I want people to graduate and move on and get work. A lot of people, I don't really keep track too much of what people do, but I pay attention to people in the groups, and people are booking, people are getting agents, people are getting better, they're sticking with it, they're not quitting, they're continuing on with their education. And because the social aspect of having that encouragement, of having friends in the industry, it's a lonely business. It's a lonely business. Absolutely it is. And that's why I could do 1,000 auditions auditions and not book something without anybody saying anything, because nobody's.
You don't even know if they listen.
I don't even know if I'm not talking to anybody about it. I'm not connecting with anybody. I'm not asking somebody, why am I not booking these things? What's happening? Because somebody listened to my audio.
Since that time, has your agent from that time given you any feedback?
No.
Still doesn't say anything.
You know, most agents. I mean, you know, if you ask for it and you have a good relationship with an agent, you can get some specific feedback. But you know, everybody's busy.
They usually only
busy.
call if you have a job or they're mad at you.
Exactly. Yep.
So I guess no news is good news.
No news is
right?
good news. I mean, you know, I check in. I'll check in with my agents every couple of months, 3 months or so, to make sure that, you know, hey, am I at least on the right track of things going the way you want them to go? Are, you know, any suggestions? But, you know, trying to like get constant feedback, it's not going to happen, unfortunately, from any.
They're kind of like, go away, kid, you bug me.
Yeah, well, and that's what the coaches are for. That's why you have coaches. That's why you train. That's why you work with somebody that you can go back to.
Have you started coaching yourself?
No, I'm not a coach.
You're not a coach.
Nope, there are plenty of coaches. There's plenty of great coaches who...
And couches. Actually, we have a couch behind it.
Yeah, couches. Plenty of great couches.
Just,
phenomenal
you know,
couches.
the difference a vowel makes is amazing.
I know. It's a whole big difference.
Speaking of voiceover.
Yeah, exactly.
the letters are all there. You just have to get them in the right order.
In the right order. There's a huge difference. Yeah, there's enough coaches. There's enough great coaches. There are enough people who make a living as coaches, who are professional coaches, who know how to train and do that in a way that's effective for their clients. If people need help, I'll help with auditions, something like that.
You help how with auditions?
If somebody, a lot of times I have my studio, so if somebody needs to do an audition, they'll pop in and do an audition at my studio, and I can help direct them.
You did an amazing thing during COVID. Okay, let's back up 2 years. Okay. COVID happened. And all of a sudden, I remember seeing emails. If you need a place to record, we've figured out how to do something amazing. Can you talk about that?
We did two things. We had done a no-contact voiceover, NOCOVO is what we called it. And we moved...
Like, just tell me you're coming, and I'll go hide in the bushes.
Yep.
You run into the booth, and I'll come up there, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have... So the entire... we moved. My studio is on my property in a separate building in my house, and I had moved my control room into the house. So we moved everything
you moved
out.
All your board and everything.
Control room is completely out. So the studio was.
Wow.
So you could remote control on the gate. You could walk in. You could walk up the stairs into the booth without seeing anybody, without talking to anybody. I had web cameras up. We could do full remote sessions, and I could control everything from inside the house. And so somebody could come and go as needed and be the only person on the property. And
did a lot of people take advantage of that?
We had a lot of people taking advantage of that. We actually opened, because of our system, we got approval from SAG-AFTRA and from the state of California to open a week earlier than other studios.
A week earlier than other studios?
Wasn't a huge difference, but it was enough for us to open to pick up a big project that we've been working on for 2 years now. So.
Can you say? Or is it secret?
No, I can't say.
Secret, okay.
Yeah. It's being discussed today at around 3 p.m. on online. It's an announcement today. So,
really? And you're not part of it? Or are you going to leave? No? Do you want to be?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just watching.
Wow, that's very exciting.
So we'll see. It'll
and was it because you were prepared to have a COVID studio that they called that, all right, this is the only place we can go?
We were open and available, and not only were we available, but then they've continued to work with us for the last 2 years. So
high fives. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, guys, this is why I have Tim here. He's very proactive and willing to put in the work, because I've seen you work yourself to, not death, because you're still here, but
pretty close.
But I mean, is that what's really necessary?
I think so. I think one of the things that, COVID was tough for everybody in multiple different ways, and I had a tough time. Most people had a tough time figuring out what was going to happen, how to navigate this emotionally, how to work your way through COVID, and how to work your way through the isolation. I think as voice actors, we were innately prepared to be isolated, because this is what we do already for a living, is isolate ourselves. So I think that transition into isolation wasn't as dramatic, radical, dramatic as it was for a lot of people. But I worked with one of my studio partners, Carson Beck, and he and I, we saw an opportunity to. You're either going to go two directions. You're either going to just put your head in the sand and isolate and hide away and wait till things come back and then figure out how to get back into the system, or we could look at what the opportunities were, and we could prepare ourselves to be open and to relaunch in a way that was going to be the new normal, as stupid as a phrase as that is, because
Well, do you still do no contact recording?
We do pretty close. We still have full COVID protocol in effect
do you have
at our studio.
Did you move your console back?
Yep, we're back in the studio. Most people, by the time we got into like SAG-AFTRA protocol, which had very specific protocol on being in and out of the studio and what times you could be in, spacing that you could have, allowed us to put the main control room back in the studio. And since we have a separate isolated booth, you could send the talent into the booth. I could then come into the studio. What we've done now, though, is we've actually have, kind of looking towards the future, is a full UVC disinfecting system in the studio.
What is UVC?
So UVC is ultraviolet lights. Oh, there we go. There we go. UVC. Oh, C is the spectrum. UVC radiation. There we go. UVC.
The UV radiation.
So there's UVB, UVA, UVC. Also, UVC is the spectrum that kills. And then there's different wavelengths of that.
The only way that humans can be exposed to UVC radiation is from an artificial source like a lamp or laser.
Yep.
UV is the highest energy portion of the UV radiation spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And UVC from the sun does not reach the Earth's surface. So we got to create our own.
And that light, the UVC, kills.
And you met somebody in club.
We were looking at it, originally when COVID first hit, there was discussion of UVC lights. It's what they use.
Does that really work?
It works, yeah.
Kills stuff?
Yep, it's what they use in surgery rooms. They'll disinfect the surgery room with it. It's what you'll see in dentist's office. They have the little chambers. They'll put the trays in, all the
and
stuff.
It cleans your utensils.
Cleans and disinfects everything.
That's awesome.
And so we looked at it originally, but at the beginning of COVID, there wasn't enough data or research to say whether it would be effective in a recording studio. In the space we had, can you put a microphone in one of the chambers? Is a UVC light going to affect the soundproofing and the foam that you have over time? Is it going to degrade?
Oh, yeah.
It turns out that it doesn't, and it's very common now. Yeah, it's great.
Yay!
And I connected with. Oh, exactly. Connected on Clubhouse a little over a year ago with...
Okay, hold on. So, let me just bring everybody up to speed. Okay, so...
There's a lot going on here.
No, it's very cool. So what you guys need to know is when we go to record, right, we go to a studio. There's a microphone. There's a chair. Well, SAG-AFTRA, which is the union. Now, there's union and non-union work, but the union is trying to keep their union actors safe. So they created some guidelines. And I'm going to ask you about this. So they created some guidelines. So, for a while, you had to leave 30 minutes, right?
It was an hour at one point.
Between when an actor leaves the studio, so they could clean it up, get rid of any cooties, and then the next person could come in.
Yep.
Headphones. They have to clean the headphones. They have to, and you don't want to spray stuff into your mic.
You don't want to spray stuff in the mic, no.
You do different pop filters.
You can change pop filters. The one thing that about the mic is the mic doesn't actually push back at you. So there's nothing coming out of the mic. Everything's going into the mic. So as long as you're not actually going to be putting the mic in your mouth, the chance of getting something off the mic.
Welker.
To enjoy the full episode, please support us at patreon.com/tellyolater. Thanks a lot.
Met somebody in Clubhouse, and they talked about the system they had, and what they knew, a new system they had is that they have a UVC light that you can actually be in front of in real time, and they're called the photon, and you can have them. They could be in this light right here. It's on for a certain amount of time and off for a certain amount of time. And in our studio, every 10 minutes, our studio is disinfected in real time.
And they've proven that it won't cause you to grow hair in places
there are different spectrums of this. We have a large one. We have a robot, which is what they would put into a surgery room, and you'll disinfect a surgery room with. Wow. And that you can't be in the same room with. But in 2 minutes, we can disinfect our entire studio.
That is so exciting. I have more questions for
Let's
you.
do it.
Would you like to hear them?
Let's do it. Let's
Okay,
do
but
it.
I have to tell you later.
Okay.
The Red River Valley ain't so blue.
Tell You Later is a Patreon-driven entertainment show. So what are you waiting for? Come on over. Join us at patreon.com/Tell You Later.
You know the Red River Valley ain't so blue, and I reckon that it's on account of you that the birds are all a-singing and the bells will soon be ringing. Oh, the Red River Valley, oh, the Red River Valley, oh, the Red River Valley ain't so blue.
Wow, is this what it's like to be in the imagination station? It's so cool, look at the tiny door. Ooh, press the red button. Look at it, I'm in Odyssey. There's McAllister Park and